Okay, I'm reading some chats here.
Get down.
Frank,
sit. Okay, go.
Stay. There you go. Good job. Okay, let me read some chats here. Make sure I don't miss any of you guys. Y'all mind check Myron Gaines X chats? It's gonna be a little bit hard for me to check the Myron Gaines X chats, guys. I'm not gonna lie. But I will check them at the end of the show. Then I'll check them at the end.
Let me see if I can get them on here.
Can you get them on your phone?
On my phone, yeah. Frank.
Frank. Hey, Frank, come down. Sit. No, down. Sit. Stay. There you go. Stay. All right. Let's get into the cross-examination, all right? Sit.
Where can I see them?
Sit.
Do you know?
No, down. Oh, it's a whole other website you're going to have to do. Oh, you thought Twitter.
You said X, right?
Yeah, no, it's on X. Like their Myron Gaines X is like my donation thingy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll have to go in there and look.
Okay.
I'll do it at the end. Do it at the end. Or if not, guys, what I'll do is I'll have it ready for tomorrow and I'll read them tomorrow. But get your questions in now. Okay, so anyway, Brian Steele, right? The attorney for Young Thug, he comes in, right? And he cross-examines the security guard, right? And cross-examine, guys, is where the defense basically is able to go ahead and ask questions of the government's witness. And what I witnessed here was probably one of the biggest ass whoopings I've ever seen, right? So first thing he attacks on the security guard is he says the devilish look, right? He says, explain this devilish look that you saw for Diddy. Because obviously that's very, that looks bad, right? For Diddy, for the defense. So Brian Steele immediately says, explain to me this stuff. Bro, yeah. I hate these ambulance niggas, bro. Bro.
There is always something happening in this city.
Yeah. And I guarantee you, bro, he doesn't even need to put this out. Nobody's in the way. I hate these ambulance motherfuckers in New York City. It's always some Puerto Rican with a fucking shitty chin strap, right? Nigga, nobody's in the way. Do you really need to put this shit so fucking loud? God damn.
I guess so.
This is why I call New York City Scum City, bro. I kid you not. I call this place Scum City.
I love this city.
Anyway, okay. So cross-examination, right? He says that he's been employed for 8 to 9 years as a security guard. And he says, hey, tell me about this devilish look. So the guy he says, why didn't you put this in your report if you had such a devilish look? Right? Mind you, guys, this report is from 2016. The incident happened on March 5th, 2016 at 11 a.m. He wrote the report at 3 p.m. And Brian Steele made a point to make sure of that, hey, you wrote this report when it was still fresh in your mind, right? And he was like, yes, that's important. So he says, okay, why didn't you mention devilish look in your report? It's my opinion. I didn't think it was relevant. Oh, okay. Don't you think that would be important to put that in the report? Beat him up on that one, right? Then, in the report, the guy never wrote that Cassie had a purple eye or a black eye.
Oh,
this purple eye thing that he mentioned in testimony, he never wrote it in the report. And when Brian Steele grilled him on that, he said, why didn't you write that in the report? He was like, well, I didn't think it was relevant. He was like, oh, really? You don't think it was relevant? You're the second guy in command, because this guy was like the associate director of security. You're the associate director of Intercontinental. You have a duty to protect the brand and the hotel from being sued. You would need to. Why didn't you document that? Right? If she really had a black eye, why didn't you document that? So he beat him up on that. Then he said. Then he attacked him and he said, "You took the time, right? You took the time to go ahead and show the video to your wife and to your colleagues, but you didn't take the time to to document that she had a black eye, right? So because this guy showed the video to his friends and shit, this security guy, and then he didn't report it. He didn't report it even though it's significant. And then let's see here. Oh, another thing that was important. He also didn't put in the report. So in the testimony, he says Diddy told Cassie she couldn't leave, but in the report, it says Diddy told Cassie to leave. I'm gonna say that again. So in his testimony, under direct examination by the prosecution, he says Diddy told her that she couldn't leave. When his report, his incident report, which was written on that day, it says Diddy told her to leave. So Brian beat him up on that some more, right? And he said, well, you know, they were going back and forth. I didn't think it was, you know, relevant to talk about that, but it still looks bad, right? Because his thing was like they were going back and forth whether she could leave, not leave, whatever. So what ended up happening was he put in the report Diddy told her to leave at the end. So he didn't mention in there how he told her in the beginning not to leave. But obviously this looks bad because he's explaining himself like this, right, in court.
Yeah.
So and then when the security guy said, "Oh, it's not important to say you can't leave in the report," because he said, "Oh, it wasn't that important." He says, "Oh, it wasn't important for you to write you can't leave in the report when Diddy allegedly said you can't leave. It wasn't important for you, but it's important for you to recall it 9 years later in this courtroom." Oh, bro, when he said that shit, I was like, this nigga's cooking him. Again, this is important, chat, right? So he tells the security guard tells the prosecution, because he's a prosecution witness, Diddy said she can't leave. He said that in his testimony. Then Brian pulls out the report, the incident report, and says, well, why did you say in the report that she could leave? Right?
You okay?
I'm fine. And he says in the report, why did you say that she could leave? Because well, I didn't think it was that important. He was like, oh, really? Well, it was important for you to remember it 9 years later in your testimony, but it wasn't important enough for you to talk about it in the incident report where you have a duty to protect the hotel. And I was like, oh, shit. Right? So that made him look really bad. Like even the courtroom was like, oh, shit, that is old, man. And even I was like, oh, wow. And I was like, yep, that's how we got, that's Young Thug's lawyer. And everyone's like, oh, really? They didn't even know. Excuse me, Jack. Sorry.
It's the NYC air here.
Yeah, this scum ass air. And then they mentioned how there was altercation because of security. When the guy was talking with Diddy, he put his forearm on Diddy like this because Diddy got mad at his guy. He thought he was recording and he wasn't. And there was a discrepancy in what he put in the report versus what actually he told the prosecution once again. So basically, Brian Steele really destroyed this guy with his report. This guy's not a police officer, chat, so he doesn't understand the importance of documenting things properly. So since he didn't, Frank, come down. Stay. Stay. All right. Since he didn't document things properly, Brian Steele just beat him up for that, right? And this is normally, right, if he was a police officer, he would have known better, but he's a security guard, he don't know better. So he omitted a lot of things from the report that he later mentioned in the testimony, right? Now, mind you, to the guy's defense, does he think he's going to be in a fucking big-ass case like this where he's going to be in the trial of a century, where he's going to be, you know, this report be scrutinized to this level? Of course not. But they really made him look bad on the stand, beating him up on this. So, yeah. They just destroyed his credibility on the stand with that, right? Next person that testified. Now this shit's where it gets crazy. Okay, is a guy named Daniel Phillips, 41 years old, male stripper. Okay, now this guy, I know, Angie. Right? You're like, what the fuck is going on here? I wish I could see Angie's face.
21 years old.
41 years.
41.
41 years old. But granted, this was happening like 10 years ago, so he was like 30 at the time.
30.
So, and you have to see, this is where Epstein died right here, actually, by the way, guys. This jail right here.
Is where what?
This is where Epstein was. Epstein right here. Jeffrey Epstein. This building. This is where he died when he he allegedly killed himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's the courtroom. That's the courtroom right there. And well, this is the court building, and then the courtrooms are up there. It was on the 26th floor.
Oh, so that's that one over there?
Yeah, the building in the back is the actual courtroom. This is like the main foyer area, and then that's the main courtroom building up there.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, this is actually right behind me is where Epstein, you know, allegedly hung himself, killed himself. We all know that didn't happen. Frank is
I think he's freezing. You know, I think
Frank is cold. You think?
I think that's why he's so uneasy. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into our guy.
Sit,
Daniel
Frank.
Phillips.
Sit. Okay.
Okay. So male escort met her in 2012, around 2012 to 2013ish. he got put on for a bachelorette party. Basically, what ended up happening was Cassie called him for a bachelorette party. Nobody was available. He was a member of like this whole bachelorette party strip club thing. So he shows up. He basically gets called because no one else was available. He goes to do this strip thing for a bachelorette party. He shows up and no one's there. It's just Cassie. He's like, "What the hell?" She's like, "Hey, is it okay? I'll pay you extra." He's like, "Okay, no problem." So he opens the door.
So
He goes inside.
just to check, escort is a male prostitute, right?
Yes, but this guy was a stripper. He wasn't an escort yet.
He wasn't a
He
prostitute.
wasn't a prostitute yet.
Okay.
So so he shows up, right? And Cassie's there by herself, or so he thinks. Or so he thinks, right? So she opens the door. He goes in, and they rub baby oil on each other, right? He didn't know who she was back then. She was wearing red lingerie, red heels, and sunglasses indoors. And when he went to this hotel to meet her, it was the Gramercy Park Hotel in Manhattan, I think is what he said. Gramercy Park
Oh,
Hotel.
I know where. Okay.
You know where that is?
Yeah.
Okay. Her husband, so she said, "Hey, my husband is here. He's not gay. He's just gonna be watching." Okay. And he wouldn't touch him, right? Because obviously he doesn't know who Cassie is at this point, right? This is 2012, 2013ish. He doesn't know who she is. And then he goes into the room and he sees someone there wearing a white robe, a bandana over his face, and a hat. And he's like, he didn't know who the fuck it was. It wasn't until he heard the person speak that it was like, oh, that's fucking Diddy. Okay.
White robe and bandana over his face.
He didn't want the stripper to know who he was.
Right.
So they went into a large living room with a suite, bottles of baby oil and Astroglide everywhere. He walks into a room, he sees the guy's, he's wearing a bandana, hat, white robe, referred to him, and Cassie referred to him as baby. At this point, he doesn't know who he is yet. When he spoke to the stripper, that's when the stripper recognizes his voice. This guy, Daniel Phillips. They started rubbing baby oil on each other, him and Cassie, and then they had sex. While they were doing this, Diddy was in a corner gooning.
Gooning is like master.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you don't know who gooning? Okay. It's what these new people call it for whacking, right?
Okay.
He had sex with her without a condom. He got paid thousands of dollars for this. Diddy Diddy told him how he didn't like his boss. The stripper worked for a guy that Diddy didn't like.
What is Astroglide?
Oh, lube.
Okay.
Then before he leaves, right? He leaves. They pay him like $5,000 or some shit.
Wow.
He leaves. They call him back like 10 minutes later and say, "Hey, you want to come back up again?" Or no, Cassie asked him for a dick pic. He sends a dick pic. Yeah, this is crazy. She says, "Oh, that was really hot. Can you send me a dick pic?" He sends her a dick pic. He says, "Hey, you want to come back up?" Yeah, I know. So he comes. You want to come back up? He goes back up, and they basically do it again. And this time they go for hours. Okay, the first time he went for just a few minutes. This time they go for hours. They last met in 2013 and 2014ish. They always met in New York City. They met at multiple hotels, the Intercontinental, Diddy's house on 56, her house on the West End, the Gramercy Hotel, and other hotels in Manhattan. They used the nickname Black to meet whenever he showed up at a hotel. Like he would say he was black. He was a black dude, bald guy. Cassie.
He was a white dude, bald?
No, he's a black guy.
Okay.
Cassie would always text and contact them if she wanted something. She would contact them somewhere between 1 hour to a couple of days in advance. Baby oil every time. Diddy told them to rub each other in baby oil. Diddy instructed her to smash. So he was there watching and instructing how things would go. He would tell them to separate if things got too hot. They'd role play. One time, he told them to role play that they met at an airport. They did a really terrible job of acting, and that didn't last long. Yeah.
What?
I guess Diddy.
That is so specific, though.
Yeah. He would give him instructions like, "Hey, don't come yet," or whatever, if he was gonna, ejaculate. The second time, so the first time they smashed, he didn't give any instructions. He would just watch. He was just sitting there gooning. The second time and the many other times afterwards, that's when he started giving instructions and, "Hey, you do this, you do that, role play here, role play that." he would instruct him to put baby oil. He always wanted a lot of baby oil on that. That's what he was saying.
Ew.
He would instruct him. This is where it gets graphic. He would instruct him to ejaculate inside her or in her stomach or on her stomach. Let's see here. Sometimes he would go in, tell him to stop, and then he'd get in there and smash a little bit, and then he'd go back in. Cassie asked him, this was interesting. This is actually very interesting that he said this. Cassie asked him to urinate on her. But mind you, the prosecution claimed that Diddy forced the prostitute to urinate in her mouth. Now, unless this is another prostitute, but the prosecution did mention this. That's something else I want to mention to you guys. In the opening statements, the prosecution mentioned how Cassie was sexually abused for years doing this, and how on one instance, and one of these escorts urinated in her mouth forcefully. But in this situation with this guy, who's actually a prosecution witness, by the way, this guy is a prosecution witness. He claimed that Cassie told him to urinate on her. But what ended up happening was he had never done it before. So I guess the nigga didn't know how to do it properly. He just full on peed on her, and they got pissed off at him.
That's so gross.
He was like he just went full spray, and they was like, hey, what the fuck you doing? Like, they got mad at him. He was supposed to sprinkle allegedly.
Ew.
I gotta see what the chat's saying on this, bro.
By the way, you got 20% here.
20% at with the battery? Okay, that's fine. I'm wrapping up. This is the last witness.
Okay.
That's
disgusting.
Yeah, man, it's fucking wild. Like, literally, he you know, crazy shit. Crazy shit. Let's see what the chat says.
I just can't believe the family was hearing all this.
Yeah, the family was there. First row, hearing all this shit.
Oh my god.
And it was like 20 of them, Angie.
Do you know if the girls were there, like his daughters?
I think one of them was.
They're young.
I think some of them were.
Wow.
Let's see here. So dude peed on her. They got pissed off. Diddy was bad at, like, what the fuck, nigga? Like, you're supposed to just sprinkle, and he didn't know. So let's see here. He asked her for STD results. He gave his. She never gave hers. So what he would describe is, he said that he would hook up with her. He would smash, and then after he would smash, Cassie and Diddy would go into a room, and they'd be in there for hours. And you would just sit there in the living room, and he wouldn't leave unless they told him to leave. Sometimes they'd be there for hours, or they'd come back out, do another round, etc. That's what would happen. He gave one instance, actually, where they did a session. She went in there with him. They come back out. She goes on her computer to do something. He's still in her room. He calls her, hey, babe, come over here. She says, hold on one second. I have my private information up. Mind you, the escort's in the room. Look, he's just chilling, right? Because after they would have sex, we just sit there in the living room, right? Waiting. And they paid him to just sit there in case they wanted to do it, whatever. So he's in her room. She says, wait 1 second. My private info's up. I'll be there in a second. He screams at her, what the fuck? Bitch, get over here now. So he comes out. He throws a liquor bottle at her, misses, smashes the wall. He grabs her, drags her into the room, and he didn't see it, but he heard slapping noises, like he was hitting. Okay, and she was crying, saying, stop, etc. Frank,
sit.
Come on, sit. Right.
Okay.
So he heard this, and then the prosecutor asked him, hey, why didn't you ever go to the cops? Why didn't you ever, like, intervene? And he said he was scared because Diddy had taken a picture of his ID, and he felt fear for his life.
Okay, that's fair.
They asked him if she was ever under the drugs or whatever. He said that she was under MDMA only one time. He showed up and she was passed out. They didn't have sex that day. Which actually goes against some of what the prosecution is saying. Let's see here. He took MDMA one time. He mentioned that when he took the MDMA, he got paid like $5,000 or $6,000. And the prosecutor asked him, like, what did he do after? He said he went out to Times Square, gave everybody $100. He spent all the money. He said he was a dumbass. He said that was the dumbest thing I ever did. He just went out there. He said he felt euphoric and happy. I guess MDMA makes you super, woo.
Yeah.
So he just gave all his money out.
Wow.
Let's see here. Okay. He mentioned another situation where him and this other guy were hooking up with Cassie. and Diddy was there, and the guy was apparently staring at Diddy, and Diddy didn't like that. I said, "Nigga, what the fuck you staring at?" And he like yelled at him, and the guy was like, "Oh, I'm not looking at you." He was like, "Hey, you gotta stop fucking staring." And then eventually, you know, he apologized. Okay, let's just get back to having fun. But Cassie ran out the room when he yelled at this guy. When Diddy yelled at this guy saying, "What the fuck you staring at?" Cassie he ran out the room. And then he said everything was cooled off. He was like, "Hey, come back in." And she was like, "Are you sure?" And she was like, terrified. That's what the guy said. He said he would get paid somewhere between $700 to $5,000 to $6,000 every single time he showed up. He said that after he saw Diddy beat her that time, he couldn't get a hard on after that if he was in the room. So he wouldn't get paid sometimes when he would show up to have sex with her.
That's very specific.
Yeah. Yep. And then one time he mentioned how she jumped in his lap after he had like yelled at her or something like that, and they never kissed, but this time they did kiss. And Diddy came in and they were about to hook up, and like Diddy came in and he's like, "Yeah, I like that." Hey man. So, yeah. Now, the prosecution, the defense cross-examined after that, but I had to leave at that point. So I didn't catch the cross-examination, but I already know that they're gonna whoop his ass on this because there was a lot of things here that were questionable. Also, there was lots of things here that actually provided defense for the defense because in a lot of these situations she would contact him, she would call him, etc. And this is government witness too. So now, mind you, when I left around 4:30, so they couldn't have cross-examined him that long. So I assume when I come back in tomorrow, that's where they're gonna pick up.
Okay.
So cool. Let me look at some of the chats here. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the day one of the recap.
That was so good.
A lot of detail, right? I told you guys I'm gonna do the best, bro. I'm the best, man.
I might come with you tomorrow just for a little bit.
Yeah. You can come.
But if it gets too creepy, I'm just gonna get out.
Salt, pepper, ketchup. Keep all eyes on Frank and keep the leash on Frank straight up. Okay, Pierre. Carter says only if the feds can get Abba next. Hey man, he's a real diddler. Were you at Diddy's trial or R. Kelly's trial talking about P? I was at Diddy's trial, bro. Let's see here. Slot says P Diddy. Okay. Alexia says I know you said you was gonna be very busy, but how does it look after the first day for a chance to get your book signed? I mean, bro, I'll be out here, man. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably do my live streams here, like right from the courtroom, around 5:30 p.m. I'm sorry, guys, I went so late today. Me and Angie both didn't sleep, so we took a nap.
Yeah.
We took a nap and then we walked over here. But tomorrow we'll be able to start this shit way sooner. I'll have Angie come out, because I'll probably have Angie have my phone chat. To be honest with y'all, charge my stuff up, and then come meet me here at like 5:30.